All right. Okay. So matters from the public.
So I'll just call a timeout. There needs to be a motion to allow Mr. McNaughton to participate remotely. And he has indicated a medical reason.
Okay, then I'll make the motion that Mr. McNaughton be allowed to participate remotely. Is that the right term? Remotely in this meeting under the appropriate code section.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, I think it's unanimous. All right. We probably should, just as a housekeeping matter, maybe have a little thing on our agenda that says remote participation motion, just as a reminder. All right, so now on to matters from the public. Is anyone?
No, sir, no one has signed this date.
No one's here. We have, looks like there probably are some people online. Indicated a.
No, sir.
All right. Then the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. So everybody had a chance to review the minutes. Any comments on the minutes?
Very thorough, thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the minutes are approved. The no change on the financial report and he's not here, so we'll just move on. So on to new business. Staff report. Roger.
Chair Long, Directors of the Authority, Roger Johnson, Economic Development Director. We have two short items for you today. The first is a quick update on the hotel feasibility study that the EDA directors passed last month. And I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Lawless. Let Director Lawless give an update from what's happening in Scottsville.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the support and interest on that. That RFP is posted open now with a closing date on the 27th. I appreciate some advice on how to get the word out on it. And I'll share the results on it when it closes here in a week and a half.
We're happy to help you get the word out, Mr. Director Lawless. We'll accent that through LinkedIn and other methods we have here at the county. The second item of business is an update on Venture Central. For those who may be listening at home, I'll provide some context. Venture Central was formed a couple of years ago. It was originally a collaboration between the city, the county, and the university to help build an entrepreneurial ecosystem to connect founders to both resources and money. It later became a process by where the chamber joined, and it became a collaboration of the chamber as the central gathering point and fiscal agent for all things Venture Central. We have that group applied for a Go Virginia grant, received a little over $200,000 in Go Virginia grant to start this ecosystem building Venture Central. The county and the city provided matching funds as well as UVA in-kind support. It's been operating in essence for about 7 months now, and we hired an ecosystem builder, a gentleman named Alex Andrew, and he's been putting the infrastructure in place. About 2 months ago, they began acting in earnest to provide support to entrepreneurs on the ground. Some of that support includes direct connections. For the last 2 months, there's been a gentleman named Alex Z, I cannot pronounce his last name, forgive me, who is working as a contractor along with Alex Andrew, the ecosystem builder, who have been working directly with startup founders. They measure connections, and a connection is anytime they meet with a founder and they connect that founder to a resource, and a resource could be a fractional CEO. It could be a venture capitalist. It could be an angel investor. It could be a mentor who has gone through the process already. Any way or any resource that can help advance that startup into a better place, both fiscally and likelihood of success, they consider that a connection. In the 2 months that they've been operating, they have made over 200 connections to startups in our community. A lot of those are folks over at UVA, spin-outs, but it's also existing entrepreneurs, including some in the county who are pretty prominent. to help, maybe help improve the pitch deck, perhaps it's to connect to capital and other reasons. The general idea is to customize support at the point they need it. So that's ongoing and active. The Venture Central has done two other things while providing this ongoing program. They submitted a grant to the Economic Development Administration, the federal level, and asked for approximately $300,000 grant. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute, because they were awarded that grant. And then secondly, there's an existing grant at through the National Science Foundation for about $1.4 million for really the idea of using data science and data analytics to promote startups, make informed decisions and have access to information that they may not otherwise have. But it also has other expectations as part of that grant to include how do you make sure data is not biased going in on the front end and make accurate predictions on the back end. So it's more than just helping startups. That particular grant that includes Venture Central as well as UVA Data School of Science. The good news is Venture Central did receive a $300,000 grant from the Economic Development Administration, and it was to do three things. One, create an angel academy to better connect and train investors and diversify investor networks. This is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion, primarily to train folks how to be both an investor and network to be part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Number two, to link local startups to funders. And that includes people of color in particular. There is data that shows they don't have the same network. And so the idea is to connect folks, BIPOC community in particular, to funders in a way they may not otherwise have access. And then the third portion of this grant is to determine and assess if a venture capital fund could be created for the purposes of sustained investment in the local community to include the BIPOC community. So that grant has been received. That work will not start in earnest till probably sometime the first quarter of next year, although the funding may come in earlier. Just by way of process, the matching funds for the Build to Scale grant, the $300,000 I just referenced, it comes from some of the county's original money as well as the Go Virginia, which will be matching the federal money. So by way of process, you have to use the Go Virginia state money first, remit that for payment, then submit the receipts to the Go Build to Scale grant. So it's sort of a domino effect, if you will. So we'll spend that money first, and then later the Diversify Connect Fund, as we'll call it. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about the DCF fund and Venture Central.
So have they found the location yet, or is that still?
A physical location?
Yeah,
There's
physical.
not been a physical location identified. It isn't in the work plan to identify a physical front door, so that all people would have access.
And would it make sense to have one or more Alexes come to our meeting and talk to us and talk about what's going on, maybe in the spring?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There is direct work that you will be doing in the future that would impact the success of Venture Central, not only for informational purposes, but also to provide support to really what amounts to the county's plan. I know that you know this, but there may be people online who may not. Project Enable's idea was not for us to go out and recruit businesses and bring them into our community, right? Like a lot of economic development organizations. Our primary plan is to tap into the intellectual capital in our community, help those folks be successful, and provide everything they need right here in our community so they don't have to leave. Eventually, some of those will result in brick and mortar businesses. Obviously, we are limited in land and resources. In certain cases, they'll outgrow our community, but the idea is to have a perpetual pipeline that provides jobs and opportunity for your children and your children's children. So Venture Central is really the genesis of that idea. So yes. It's a long-winded yes. Any other questions? Good things are happening over there. I'm happy to report that. And the federal government agrees, and they're providing money to continue.
What about the trip to Greenville with the Chamber of Commerce? I don't know if there's a time to report whether you want to do that now, talk about it toward the end.
We have a staff debriefing scheduled
It's next Monday. Yeah.
next Monday. If you allow us to pump that until
Right.
to the next meeting, we'll bring it
Okay.
back. We'll try to articulate all the
Okay.
information. We have not aggregated all that from individuals.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I learned a lot about the people that participated.
All right.
Just a little teaser there.
Well, we look forward to that.
Well, haven't you bring it-
I'm gonna be brief, I'm not.
Well, one of the participants, I think I saw was listening online. So.
All right, anything else on the staff report?
No, sir.
All right, next is a closed session. Do we have a actual motion to read for the closed session? We wanna, all right, looks like we got one.
Oh,
Vice
George, are you
Chair
gonna
has
do
a, has a,
Go ahead.
we're not gonna read it. I was gonna hand it to Don, but if you
Yeah,
have,
you
if
can
you
read
have it. you can-
All right. I don't have to. I just had cataract surgery.
all right,
Yeah,
here.
my close.
All right.
Just a.
I move that the Albemarle County Economic Development Authority go into closed meeting as authorized by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, section 2.2-3. 711A of the Code of Virginia under subsections 5 and 6 to discuss and consider prospective businesses or industries locating in Albemarle County and or the expansion of an existing Albemarle County business, Project Cowboy, where no previous announcement has been made of their interest in locating or expanding their facilities in Albemarle County, and the investment of public funds to support location or expansion where bargaining is involved and where if made public initially would adversely affect the financial interests of the EDA in Albemarle County.
All
right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries, so we move to closed session.
That's right. We have a new process in order to ensure privacy and communication. We're actually exiting this room, taking a left out of here.
we'll go ahead and start. I move the EDA certified by recorded vote to the best of each director's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. Okay. And Richie, would you call the roll?
Director Long,
Aye.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director McNaughton,
Aye.
Director Matola.
Aye.
Director Lawless.
Aye.
And Director Moore.
All right. Certification is completed. So next on the agenda is unfinished business. Southwood performance agreement.
I'll speak to this and I'll ask you, Chair Long, if you don't add any additional commentary, that'll be great. Southwood has an existing performance agreement. There is a process by which the county goes forward and vets the information to make sure they're eligible for payment. That process includes Dr. Pettit from the Housing Authority validating all the information, sending that to the legal department, ultimately with Jeff's signature approving and such. We did that and made a payment a couple of months back, and Don was authorized to make that, and he did so. They're coming up for their second payment, and this is an amount of $300,000. We were not certain whether or not we wanted to bring this back to the authority on a regular recurring basis anytime in the future that they may be eligible for incentive, although I believe this one actually closes out most of their performance agreement. So what we're asking for the authority today to do is to consider adopting a resolution that allows Chair Long, or in his absence, Vice Chair, to authorize and sign an agreement to move forward and make these payments for Southwood. The idea is to be both efficient as well as provide him the authority to do so. While he may have already had the authority, we thought it was appropriate that the EDA directors here were cognizant of what was happening behind us. So pause here and ask if you have any questions about that process or that project or anything like that.
And I actually am going to recuse myself from this because my wife found out has done some work for Habitat in association with their project. So
So I guess to some degree, we're authorizing George on behalf of the Economic Development Authority.
I've got a guy that named Javier Zamora and his 14-year-old son Matthew help me every Sunday with landscaping, whatever. And they've become good friends. We go to baseball games at UEA together, and he lives in Southwood. And you know, he's not the most brilliant guy when it comes to real estate, but I've been out there and they're doing a great job out there. And I met with Dan Rosen. How do you pronounce it?
Yes.
And he's adamant that anybody who lives in one of those trailers now will have an opportunity to have a permanent home out there. Either rent or purchase. So we're going to go through the process to see if Javier can qualify to purchase something out there. But I think it's a dynamite project. I mean, it's pretty sad where they live now.
Any other comments, questions? I think there's a resolution somewhere in the whereas.
right up there.
The resolution was attached to the overall, the whole resolution. If you want to read it all, that's great, but ultimately it just allows Don, or in this case, the designated George, to sign off on that particular project. And pay for that project. Is that it?
Yeah, someone to make that motion.
I move the EDA to adopt this resolution appropriating $300,000 to Greater Charlottesville Habitat for Humanity Inc. and to authorize this authority's chair and treasurer to execute all documents necessary to complete this grant.
All right, I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I take it there's none. All right, so
In terms of future, I don't see the necessity for bringing it back every time unless the authority wants.
Well, I think
Resolution will accomplish
I think we're done on this.
Yeah, if you say yes to this, we will not be bringing it back every. Once it's been vetted and proven that they've met their standards and the county executive signs off of, you or the chair would be.
Director Ray,
Yes.
Director McNaughton.
Aye.
Director Matola. Director Lawless
Yes.
and Director Morrell.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So the last matter is currently our EDA meeting is in December is on the 20th. We'd like to move it to the 13th. And depending, of course, on what we have on the agenda, maybe we will or will not have that meeting, but I think it's important to keep it on the calendar at least, because we have had on occasion bond issuances that pop up at the end of the year. I don't know if people have the ability to check their calendars now, or that creates an issue.
Do we customarily take that holiday meeting off?
We've had meetings then. I don't think we normally do unless basically there's nothing on the agenda.
Customarily, it gets moved away a week prior to away from Christmas and the issues we have. There's no, I mean, we don't know what's going to be on the agenda at that time.
And we can certainly vote on this at the next meeting if anybody. But
It's fine with me.
Yeah, I don't have an issue.
should we vote on that, moving the date?
Oh, I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'm gonna move that we move the December EDA meeting from December 20th to December 13th. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is moved. Any further business, anything else any directors have that they want to bring up?
I just wanted, can I just tell you all something that
Sure.
happened yesterday? As you all know, many of the supervisors have citizens advisory committees, we call them PACs, right? And I have a CAC that represents the places 29 in the urban area of the Jack Jewett district and a portion of Rio. So it's on the, I have to stop at the west side of 29. About every few years, I organize a tour for my CAC members, and we actually tour our area. Last night, we toured it in a jaunt bus because jaunt lends the bus and the driver. And I do the tour because periodically we have new folks that come on board. The reason I'm telling you this is last night I had the ability to take my CAC members by Seminole Place. And we talked about the multitude of different types of businesses and manufacturing that was happening in that facility. They were absolutely amazed. They thought it was just, they had no idea what was in there. And we talked about economic development and how important it was. We then proceeded to go down to Northrop Grumman, right on the, in the Stonefield complex. Rudy Fernandez, the operating director for Northrop Grumman, is on my CAC. And he explained how many employees, which is almost up to 500 now, that Northrop Grumman has, and how they do manufacturing and what types of work that they do in that building. One of my CAC members said, I just thought that was full of offices. People are amazed that manufacturing is happening in this community because there's no smokestack, right? And it was a great discussion around economic development. And I also, the other thing I want to tell you is that we went up to George Ray's Blake, to the Blake. And the reason we went up there was because of the Veterans Memorial. And we took a look at the Veterans Memorial that George built as part of his retirement community. And they were just so happy to see that memorial. And we also went other places like Ivy Creek, but it was a great tour. And I think folks that even lived in that area had no clue that economic development and manufacturing was happening in their backyard. So it was really sweet. Just wanted to share that with you.
Anything else? All right, if there's nothing else, then we're adjourned until November 15th. Ms. Reed.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Halloween, don't be too scary.